Good afternoon, everybody. This is Right Wing Dad, also known now as Zack Stewart. I am your host of the Bearded Federalist Show. I'm joined by my
Originally
other,
known as Zach
yeah,
Stewart.
I'm joined by my other co-hosts, Mark McEachran and Frost, and we're back. That's
You're back,
the
baby.
best news. Yeah, sorry we've been gone for so long. We've all just had so much going on over the last few months with the holidays. I know Frost, he just recently moved to Florida. He's now a Florida man.
Yep.
I am going to be a dad again. I'm having a daughter. And Mark has kind of just become famous. I don't know if any of you guys have seen him on Cuomo or any of the other News Nation, Fox News, you name it. He's been on there. But yeah, I'm going to open it up to you guys just to kind of tell everybody what's been going on.
Yeah. So I guess I'll cut Mark off and go first. So I am officially the resident Florida man for the Bearded Federalist Show. I'm going to switch my focus a little bit more. I know Mark has a lot to talk about with his second of Walnut, so I'm not going to steal his thunder on that one. But there will be a coffee with Caldwell show here booting up pretty soon underneath the Bearded Federalist Show umbrella. And I'm going to be talking about specifically. I'm going to focus on Florida politics. So there's a lot for me to learn. Not everything is quite as clear as it was in Alabama, just because I've been in Alabama my entire life up until this point. So I'm going to focus on that. I got a pretty long list of things that I'd like to talk about when it comes to the coffee and Caldwell. So stay tuned. I was supposed to have a rather lengthy intro video this week, but it just so happens that I lost a lot of my equipment that I just found this morning. I was kind of stressed out about that. So I've got everything set up or halfway set up. So you guys will be seeing that in the coming days now. I promise I'll have first episode coming out this week. So that's really the synopsis on me. What about you, Mark?
Real
Dude,
quick
first I
before
just want to say,
before Mark
yeah,
goes, I just kind of wanted to say it's kind of funny because, even though he just moved to Florida and he's going to have a show about Florida politics, Mark and I kind of know more about Florida politics
Yes.
than he does.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
very involved in Florida politics, even though we both live in Alabama.
Yeah.
So we're kind of teaching him the ropes and
Yes,
introducing
that
him
is
to a
true.
bunch of the people that live in Florida.
Yeah.
Um,
So anybody that watches this show, if you're into Bay County, Florida politics, please hit my DMs. Hit the Bearded Federalist Show DMs on Twitter. Hit my DMs. Somebody get in contact with me. I'd like to show up and show out for that.
now this is just really cool because people may wonder why would a bunch of guys from Alabama care anything about what's going on in Florida. Um, and here's the thing: when it comes to conservatism, like all three of us are staunch conservatives, and we genuinely believe that the only way we're getting this country back on track is through conservatism itself. So the reason that Florida is so important is anytime you have a a new thing, and conservatism is not new, but anytime you have a prototype of something that's actually working and operational and can be revolutionary and can change the world for better, you want to really pay attention to that prototype and see how that works and make sure that that is secured and safe and going, because how that prototype works is going to be dependent on how everything built after it
Yep.
does. And Florida is the prototype for
Yep.
modern conservatism.
That's true.
It is where it has been put into place. It is where it has succeeded. I mean, the number one in education, crime dropping like crazy, most people moving in. Frost is one of them.
Yep.
Jobs
The
galore. Like
state debt in the last 6 years is just
30. Yep, it's over
nothing.
40 something percent. That's almost 50% that he's cut. Like, it is unreal. So this is ground zero for the prototype of conservatism actually working and functioning and liberating people. And so all of America should have should be paying attention to what's going on in Florida, because how that rolls and how that goes is going to play impacts everywhere else. And so I'm thrilled you're there, dude, and I'm
Yeah.
excited you're getting plugged in. And,
Me too. What about Second and Walnut? Tell us about Second and Walnut.
Yeah, man, I just got one episode out, and then craziness happened.
Yeah.
So Second and Walnut, what I'm trying to do there is so many of the modern issues, so many of the things that we're dealing with today. The arguments and debates and stories of those all happened at our founding. Like a lot of people just don't know these things.
I learned a
I
lot
was
in your
looking
first
into.
episode.
I learned a lot just researching for my first episode.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I want to do with this is just share with people what I'm learning. But the first episode was, the name of the show was called Second and Walnut, and the reason for that is it's an address. It's the address of the City Tavern in Philadelphia, and why that's important to conservatism, why that's important to America, why it's important to us, is that is really the true roots of where our nation was founded. It's where the founders went when they were on breaks from Carpenter Hall, which was on the same street, just two buildings down. Carpenter Hall, otherwise known as Independence Hall, is where they wrote the Constitution, right? It's where they had the actual convention. During the breaks, they go to this tavern, they have drinks, and that's where real talk happened. That's where real conversation happened. On top of that, that's where Jefferson was hanging out when he was writing the Declaration of Independence. That's where George Washington made the headquarters of the Continental Army for the Revolution. So many of our stuff was tied to our history there. And so all the fruits that we inherit and have today came from that. So that's why I named it Second Walnut, as a tribute to our birth and bringing it back to what we have going on today. Like we see the battles over immigration. I have found writings and letters back and forth from governors, from representatives, from cabinet members, and stuff from the first administration and even earlier, where they were wrestling with immigration and the same issues that they were wrestling with. People were bringing in disease, people were bringing in crime, people were bringing in problems with assimilation.
And we can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, exactly. And so the things that we're seeing today, we were seeing back then. And that's what that whole podcast is going to be about. So I've got a lot more coming on that. The preamble is one I want to tackle next because of how it applies to everything we're dealing with today. And there's so much more coming. So if you're a history nerd, if you're a political nerd, and if you want to see conservative solutions from our founders applied to modern issues, then Second and Walnut is going to be something you're going to want to turn into.
I'll say that I'm excited about doing my own podcast, but I am definitely, after watching the first Second and Walnut episode, I'm you got me hooked, bro. You got me hooked.
It's funny. I'm going to have a lot better production value in that than I did. That first one, I did a recording, like the whole recording. And after I got done, I realized I hadn't shared my screen, which had all of the documents. So all the stuff you see popping up on the screen and everything behind me and like taking over the whole screen, that was all stuff I was going to share and highlight. And it was a disaster. But
yeah,
I tried to salvage it, got it out, and next time it'll be better. But yeah, this last week got crazy too. We had those multiple aircraft crashes. Yep. And I just happened to be a Black Hawk crew chief. What's funny to me about that, this is an exclusive to the Bearded Federalist show fans and viewers. Nobody else is seeing this except for when we take a snip and put it out there. When I became an E5, a sergeant in the Army, and I got sent back to Fort Campbell to the 101st and was serving there as a crew chief, and I was leading this unit of crew chiefs. Okay, they were all E4s. They were all E4s with more time, more experience, more combat experience, more deployment. These guys were far more qualified to run this whole unit than I was whatsoever. And so I just imagine my friends from my unit back then watching me show up on screen and be like, this dude, because I knew the least. Like they had to carry me and coach me and teach me. And so, but now the media has me talking about this Black Hawk crash as I am an expert. I am experienced in them. I don't know that I'd call myself an expert, but The media has been calling me out and asking me about all sorts of stuff. I've been on Trace Gallagher. I've been on Laura Ingalls. I've been on Cuomo. I've been on Connell McShane. I've been on all over News Nation, who I have a really amazing respect for now too. That could be a whole show itself on just the media, but it's been a crazy experience. And now they are inviting me back to talk about politics. So this Wednesday at 2:00, I'll be on Connell McShane, um, talking about the latest in the political realm. And so the Bearded Federalists will be on the map. So that'll be cool.
So there's actually a question that I have for you, Mark. Since you're the elected leader of the new Federalist, I'm going to call it the revolution because that's really what it is. So I just any updates? Do we have any updates on the new Federalist agenda?
Yes, yeah, big deal, big things going on. So for people that don't know, a little over a year ago, I was maybe longer than that, but it was a while ago. I was noticing that one thing that America needs is a conservative movement, where we can take back the local communities and local towns. I noticed that the left was amazing at executing federalism. They've gotten into our school systems, they've gotten into our businesses. The woke agenda was everywhere and doing everything. And so we needed a movement at the grassroots level. And so I started trying to figure out how to deal with that, what to do with that. Other people that were somewhat like-minded, well, very much like-minded. I'm going to say somewhat. The other people that were like-minded wanted into that too. And one of the guys who was a brilliant dude who writes some amazing articles on conservative policy and conservatism. He goes by Croaky Cayman on X. He came up with a name for the new Federalist. And that seemed to absolutely apply with what we were trying to do. It touched us back to our roots and stuff like that. However, and he will tell you this himself, he's abrasive and very, very abrasive. and that got a lot of people ruffled up and got us off on a bad foot. But I saw that, the need was still there and the truths were still there and things needed to keep going. And so we, a number of us, not Croaky has said he does not want to be involved in this, mostly because he wants his privacy. He just does not want to put his name out there. And so we respect that. So a number of us, I was able to find some really talented people. I found full stack developers. I found professional marketers. I found people that have whole careers in business coaching and development and growth and launching entrepreneurs and stuff like that. They have access to all sorts of technology and tools, and it's amazing. And they're all diehard conservatives. And so we got together, and this last week we formed the new Federalist Alliance. And the reason that we're going to be an alliance is we want to partnership with other organizations that are already doing conservative things. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, right now we're doing the research and trying to select a location, but we're looking for 3 cities, 3 locations that we can use to launch our first 3 chapters. That are like real solid chapters. And what we're intending to do is attack on different levels. So one, we are developing a full education, a civics education program. So these chapters will serve to educate their members on our history, on our heritage, on conservatism, why it works, and then how to apply it locally. The other thing that we want to do is we want to identify what interest you have. You may not like politics. You may not be into politics at all whatsoever. Maybe you like soccer. Maybe you like football. Maybe you like hunting. Maybe you like video games. Maybe you like cooking. Maybe you like other things. And this is what your interests are and your passions are. Well, we know from experience that all of those things are impacted locally in your own community. by politics. And so what we want to do are take people that have an interest in a topic and marry it up to a group that is doing things locally to use conservatism to either protect and save that thing that you're into or advance it. And so no matter what your passion is, we're going to find a way to plug you in. And so we want people to be active in their local communities. So we're going to be doing education, we're going to be doing training, and we're going to be connecting people to organizations that are doing real work. We want to push conservative values and solutions so that when we see real world problems, such as those a young pregnant girl who's not married and either a victim of rape or a boyfriend left her or whatever the reason she's there, and now she's unable and or incapable of taking care of this child even before birth. We want to marry them up to not marry them. We want to connect them to organizations and charities that are out there that do support them and will help them. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be doing as the new Federalist Alliance. We're going to be connecting with other groups that are doing real world things. We also have a think tank going on that we're going to be using to be advisors to the GOP to bring conservatism back through our education program. We're also looking at doing a PAC so we can actually help nominate and support and endorse and fund and raise for conservative candidates. Our belief, our theory is that, your city council members become representatives, representatives become governors, governors become presidents. And so we will flood that local city council, board of education, and so on. We'll flood those with conservatives and advance conservative solutions to real world issues at those positions. And so that the pool by which all the others draw from is only full of conservatives. And so that's our plan to revive, retake, and restore our republic. And so, we got a lot going on. We've been formalized. We should have a website launch here, I believe, within just a few more days, at least a landing page. We're going to unveil some of our branding coming out. And pretty
that was
soon,
my next question.
We got branding about to be released, and that's exciting. Really thrilled about that. And then we're going to start reaching out to donors. We have a full program set on targeted donors from every budget level, and so
talk about a little bit of strategy here. Is that going to be an Alabama focused thing? Are you going to start in Alabama and then focus to the southeast, or what's the
awesome?
Or you're going to try to break right out of the gate, get one city in Georgia, one in Tennessee, one in Alabama, something like that?
So that's a good question. We are actually doing demographic research right now.
Okay, good.
We're trying to identify what we want to do is we want to launch in very, very strong conservative places initially. And the reason is we're developing a plug and play system so that when each chapter stands up, all the work's been done to stand that up.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of support in Florida and some of the lower states. But again, just from being online, seeing all of the people that, identify as New Federalists, they're from all over.
Yeah.
And so we've got the following. It's just more so we need to focus on the messaging. And I know I've talked to Mark about this a lot, is that there are people out there within, the MAGA movement who have a sour taste in their mouth of the new Federalist movement just because of the primary and the general election and the Trump bashing and the DeSantis, back and forth. And so we're really just trying to focus on punching upwards, as Mark has stated before. Don't just call them out for hypocrisy. Tell them, educate them. Say, hey, this isn't, how it should be done. This is what we should be doing, and this is why it matters. Because as we all know, sometimes things sound great, but in the long run, it's a slippery slope that leads down another path. When a new president gets in, um, especially when it comes to executive orders or things in legislation just being vague in the way it's worded. I know Thomas Massey votes no on a lot of bills just because of the way it's worded, and he doesn't want
Yeah.
things to be taken and used against conservatives in the future. And I 100% agree with that. And yeah, I mean, we're getting
Yeah. So
to a
that's
point
like,
where all of this matters, and we've got a lot of work to do before 2026 and
Yeah.
2028 come
Oh
around.
yeah. In Florida, we've got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to
yeah.
do.
I think that is a good segue into the first topic I think we really need to talk about, and it needs a lot of attention, is what is going on in the Florida legislature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I just saw the other day that Daniel Perez, he wants, oh, where was it? I literally just had it pulled up too. Daniel Perez wants to look into Florida because he said he thought the state has too much cash on hand in November, and he's criticized, Governor DeSantis for the speed in which they help people during the hurricane
Oh.
storms. Like,
What? What?
like what?
That's
You,
ridiculous.
you're
That's just
yeah, it's like you're literally criticizing him for being too effective.
These guys
And
are making themselves their own punchlines.
oh
It's
my gosh. Well, when you have Nikki Fried and the Florida Democrats sending out text messages to people that say Daniel Perez stands up to Governor DeSantis and backs Democrats, that's when you know it's
yep.
bad. That's when you know your career in
that's
politics is over
that's
in the
a
Republican
that's a
Party.
you're fired in
I
your
mean,
next reelection if you.
Daniel Perez, Joe Gruters, Randy Fine, um,
Or
Your
um,
days are numbered, there, boys.
Porras. I forgot his name. He looks like Pee Wee Herman.
right.
Porras. You have Al Britton, and then you have
Yep.
Wilton Simpson, who's the head of agriculture, and he takes a helicopter to work every day. Like, how much does that cost taxpayers? And you want him, who's
Right.
pro amnesty, to be in charge of illegal immigration? Like, I just don't understand
Yep.
this entire process of what they're trying to do.
So
And
let's.
I listened to Dana's show the other day when she had on Randy Fine,
Oh.
and she just demolished him. Like, he could not answer a question to
Yeah.
save his life. He just gaslighted and just
Yeah. That was
BS the
embarrassing.
entire show.
This is one of those things where we need to begin to make a list of these people that are rhinos, and we need to know their name. We need to know what district they're in. We need to know who their constituents are, and they need to be voted out.
Yeah, so we
And let me catch
actually
one in Bay County. Let me.
we
I'll run against you.
we
I'll
act
do it.
so we actually set up a X page called Red State Rhinos. And I share a lot of the memes on there, but there's a few other people who I'm not going to name who are, solely focused on that account. But our focus is to worry about all of the rhinos in these red states that are going against
Yep.
conservative policy and working essentially with Democrats trying to um, take Trump's,
Mm.
stuff and just demolish it. And so,
Let's
yeah,
let's go back just a little bit and set some of the stage for some of the viewers that may not know, like, what we're exactly talking about, how we got here. When President Trump was elected, he pushed immigration right from the start, signed an executive order that he was going to deport, right? That he was coming. And Ron DeSantis in Florida wanted to get ahead of that and aid in that. The reason is the federal government does not have the capability to do it. They do not have the resources, the means, the manpower at all to do mass deportations. They are entirely dependent and relying on the states to do this. And so Ron DeSantis wanted to get in place and get ready to go on day one. So he went ahead and called a recess of the Florida legislature. They were all on break. The governor has the authority to call them back for emergency situations to say, hey, we need legislature right now to address this issue. And so what he wanted to do is he wanted to equip the law enforcement in Florida to be able to apprehend, arrest, investigate, hunt down, and apprehend, like I said, apprehend illegal immigrants. And that was one of the big things he wanted to be able to do. Now, in every state across the nation, and at the federal level, we have a Republican form of government. It's granted by the Constitution. And in that, the governors are in charge of law enforcement. That is one of the main duties of the executive office everywhere. And so naturally, that was what was going to go on, and that he wanted in the bill to have he and his team, the attorney general, who's the chief prosecutor in the state, go ahead and lead this effort. He wanted to empower sheriffs. He wanted to empower local law enforcement. He wanted to do all this stuff. So what did the Florida GOP come up with? Well, they came up with a bill that they titled the Trump Act. And nowhere in that bill is the word deportation, or any derivative or use of the word whatsoever found, because it is not a deportation bill. It even allows for bail to be paid for illegal immigrants by Florida taxpayers. And the big thing that it does is it takes the oversight, it takes the law enforcement out of it and places it into the hands of a secretary of a branch. Now, if my viewers will just take a second and think about this. Illegal immigration, one of the big things that it causes a problem for in our nation is human trafficking and drugs. Those are the two big things that we wrestle with. So if there was any branch in labor, so if there was any department within any state government that would have an interest in cheap labor, drug use, that would be agriculture, right? So that's just common sense. So what did this bill do? It put it in the hands of Florida's Secretary of Agriculture. And he has a whole history, a whole past of supporting amnesty, of being really weak on immigration because of the cheap labor that it provides for the farmers, and because of the drug influence that's there.
Let me butt in right there. What is when we need to define this, what it is. Okay, what is cheap labor for farmers?
Yeah,
slavery. Slavery.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So slavery.
Well, not just that, but because they're illegal, it's cheap labor, and then they can't really leave because they need the money. And on top of that, they can just threaten them with, well, I can report you to immigration if you try and leave. So it really is. And,
and a lot of that money that they're getting paid is going back to the coyotes and stuff that got them here. So
exactly,
they're still not getting those resources.
I mean, I haven't seen liberals and, people that support all of this crazy crap this mad since Lincoln actually abolished slavery. Mm-hmm. And so it's just wild that they tried to play, the moral card, but even on mainstream news, they're saying, well, who's going to pick the blueberries? And it's like, really? You're saying the quiet part out loud.
Yep.
It's
so wild to me.
I can't take any
those people that
the liberals that are saying that type of. I just cannot, like, do they listen to themselves?
Sadly, they do, and then of course Scott Jennings usually has to wreck them,
give them coverage. Yeah, but those names that Zack mentioned, like if you go back and rewind back to the names he was talking about, the roles that these people have in the Florida GOP legislature are massive. Like Joe Gruters is the chairman. Like he's the one that he's the speaker of the House. Basically, he brings all the committees together and pushes this. Now he was a sponsor of this Trump Act bill that does nothing to support Trump's actual plans. Um, and so he was a sponsor. Randy Fine was a co-sponsor. Albertson is another sponsor in there. So these guys are leaders within that party that has been praised for months now for being the example to the rest of the country on how to be Republican. And now these guys are coming in and doing the opposite of what it means to be a conservative Republican. And that's why it goes back to how we opened our whole episode, our whole show, is that what is happening in Florida as the prototype is something that we all need to pay attention to, because what is happening there is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
There are things going on, even in Alabama, that if I mentioned, and I say this not exaggerating at all, but if I mention this on this show right now, the depth of corruption that's going on even within the GOP here, I would be kicked out of the GOP committees that I'm in, and so I need to try to work within them to get that rooted out and get that
which is a
addressed.
shame
It's
because I, for one, don't like hypocrites, and so the fact that we are trying to be conservatives and stand up for conservatism, yet when we try and expose all of the corruption going on within our own party, you're essentially blacklisted. And
Yep.
that to me is one of the most annoying things about politics is you get into politics because you care about the community and you care about the direction that the country is going. And from my point of view, and I'm sure others share this point of view, we elect people to do this job. We elect people to go and represent us on, behalf of the state or the district that we live in. And it's become more of it's become more about power, and it's become more about um, a celebrity status and everything that comes with it. We have
Yeah.
representatives not just from Alabama, but in Florida that care more about going on Bill Maher's show and television interviews and getting sound
Mhm.
bites than they do actually passing meaningful legislation. I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. Um, I forgot I forgot which congressman it was, but wanted to put Trump on Mount Rushmore. Then
Yeah.
you have, well, no, that was Anna Paulina Luna. Oh, and that's Siri. And then you have another congressman who wants Trump to have a third term. And it's like, this isn't going to pass through the House or the
Yeah,
Senate,
Right.
even with Republican control. These types of things
it's
aren't
a
going to
waste of
pass.
money. It's totally stupid.
Yeah,
And you know,
Doesn't
it's
matter.
pass
It's
legislation that can get passed because you have 100 days to get all of the really important stuff done. Like after that 100 days, it just becomes more difficult to do that.
yeah.
And the more things we put on the back burner, the more difficult it is to do. And once we get into 2026 and you start having all of these congressmen who are out trying to get reelected rather than be there and vote on things, it's going to become very difficult to turn all of these executive orders that Trump is doing, which I give him praise for. He's done a lot of good
Yeah.
things so far. I would say it's about 80
Yeah.
20 on the good and bad, but all of this stuff is great. But we've kind of been down this road before and listened to this same old song is you can have a lot of really good executive orders, but in 4 years, one executive order can undo all of that. So that's why
Yep.
federalism works, and that's why
Yeah.
it's important, and why we need to pass legislation to codify this, these orders and make them laws.
And that's what's so frustrating right now is, in 2016, Trump came out with amazing executive orders as well, the first 100 days. So this is very similar. Yes, I'm going to praise him for each one of them that is good, because this is how you get the ball rolling, right? The legislature needs to pick it up and go. But on top of that, what's really frustrating is I'm seeing evidence that Trump may have learned something since the last time. And it looks like he has learned the importance of the states rather than to get in there and be an authoritarian like he was in 2016 to 2020. He has called Abbott to the White House to discuss Texas involvement on the border. And the reason is what Abbott has been doing with Operation Lone Star in Texas has been amazing. He has really been able to shut down that border very, very well and get all things in place to apprehend. And they even have prisons set up for detention centers just long enough for ICE to come and grab people out of there. Um, they stood up to the Biden regime. They stood up to the conservative Supreme Court, who told them, "Hey, you got to let these federal agents come tear down the barricades that you're putting in the Rio Grande." And Texas said, "Make us," and they stood up to it. And so, they've been doing a great job in leading in that, and Trump is bringing that on board. He's gone out and reached and brought them in. Uh, DeSantis finally just went around all this nonsense that's going on in Florida, and he made an executive order to empower the law enforcement to do what they want to get done. And of the two actions, the one action of what those guys are doing in the legislature, and the action that DeSantis is doing, Trump has praised one of them, and it wasn't those RINOs in the legislature. He thanked Ron DeSantis for getting stuff done. So again, he's looking to the states finally to do this. And I think he's learned that lesson and realized now that he can't do anything without them. And so when we see these red state RINOs that are everywhere in every single red state, trying to either get a name for themselves, trying to either one up each other for I am more MAGA than the other, when it looks like Trump just wants to actually get something done for a change. I've been
Oh,
hard on him for being such a failure the first time around, for
yeah.
not building the wall, for not deporting, for not doing all this stuff. And it looks like he wants to this time. He's doing all the right things to try to
Yeah.
get it done. And
I,
so,
I I will say they are making a name for themselves. That's for sure.
yeah.
It's just
Oh, yeah.
it's not in the right
Not in a
direction.
good.
I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I have not seen. Well, I've seen a few, but I have not seen many people. And these are out of like thousands of comments that do not defend Daniel Perez, Randy Fine, um,
Yeah.
and all the others. It's like they are literally digging their own grave, and they have chances to come out and say, "I'm sorry, I'm wrong." But no, they double down on it, and that's what's
Yep. We're a
that's
few
what's
weeks into
annoying to
this.
me.
Yeah, we're a few weeks into this term, and Trump is doing some pretty good stuff. But right now, we're already seeing pushback and complaints, and legitimate ones, that the deportation levels are dropping again. We're not getting people deported quickly like
And
we
Tom
have
and
under
Tom
previous.
Homan has literally said it's because they're kind of working with one hand tied behind their back because of all of
Yep,
these.
you need the states.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but now
You
we
need the
have
states.
I'm assuming it's media personnel leaking ICE investigation and positioning to illegals so they don't get caught. Have you guys
We
been?
have
You guys
Ilhan.
that
We
is
have
going to
Ilhan
be
Omar out there holding like town halls,
yeah.
teaching
That woman needs to be
illegals.
deported. Her
Well,
citizenship
Yep.
should be revoked, and she should go back to Somalia where she wants to be.
Well, she was
Right.
actually there. There was a press conference she did the other day, and she referred to the Somalian president as our president. I mean,
Yep.
not as America's, but she
Yeah,
was talking to a bunch of
Yep.
Somalians. Like, it's like, why are you, you know, saying that?
yeah,
And I'm not sure if does she hold dual citizenship?
yeah. She does.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's like I personally believe that, and I know Thomas Massey has advocated for this, but I do not think you should serve in Congress or in any elected office if you are a dual citizen.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
it's not that I don't think they don't care, but it's like, how can you serve more than one master?
You can't.
You can't. I don't care if that's
Nope.
Britain or if you're doing that because it makes traveling easier, but if you should not be writing legislation to influence another country. And
It,
I would start with this. Even if we don't do that, I think that it should be a rule that if there is any legislation pertaining to that country, that person should recuse themselves from voting on the bill.
I don't think it should be up to them if
Right.
they get recused or not. I think they should be
Yeah.
removed from any. It should just be flat out illegal.
Yeah.
She's
Yep.
also stated that as soon as she's done with her time in office, she said that she's going to go back to Somali. So why don't we just send her there now? I don't understand how it's even gotten this far with her. I don't
Right.
understand. I don't. And I understand how she got elected. She got elected because Obama put 5 million Somalis in Minnesota in her district, and that's how she's gotten
Hmm.
reelected every time. I get that. I understand that. That's even worse. So we have a then president, now ex president, that has manipulated and if you think that this isn't potentially a nationwide thing, that's what they're trying to do with immigration. Period. Okay, a ex president or former president, when he was in office, manipulated a population to get a Democrat elected. I don't know if that was a Democrat area before, but not only is she a Democrat, she's a squad member and also Somalian. It's bad,
Hmm.
bad, 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 and bad. I don't understand it.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
get it. There's something else that
So, what are you guys thinking about these tariffs?
I think I'd like to talk about the Elon Musk. He's been kind of stirring the pot here lately, and it's been
Yes.
I voted for that check mark over and over and over again. I think I guess the tariffs kind of tie into some of that because it's all economic news. But um, when we had Democrat congressmen and women outside of what was that, the Department of Education yesterday? Oh man,
Oh, attacking that poor dude.
oh man.
Yeah.
There was only one person in every single video that I've seen. There's only one person doing their job. The man
Yep.
defending the door.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, Trump is doing a lot with what DOGE is recommending. As far as all of the things that Elon is exposing, as far as what all our money is being spent on. I saw something this morning about there was this building that here it is. I have it pulled up, and WikiLeaks actually posted about it. USAID funneled nearly $500 million through this building that's in Saint Arcata, California. The IRS and the government contracts list this address as the current registered address for, I think, Indiana, although it was clearly abandoned by December 2024. And this building looks like a hole in the wall place, and $500 million were being funneled through it. It's just crazy. how much corruption there is and how much pushback there is. If you
So I,
throw a stone at a dog, whichever one barks, you hit it.
So I posted this thing on Twitter. So we're going to talk about numbers and money here. I posted this thing on Twitter. I think our good friend Dustin Gage posted something about how much DOGE has really helped. And I just checked the debt clock. The debt clock says $72 billion has been saved. Okay, so what is? How can you? It's like everybody knows how long an inch is. Everybody knows how long a foot is. Most people know how long a mile is. Okay, so but when it comes to money, what does $72 billion really mean? So put it to you into perspective for all of our. It's not much, but let me explain. Okay, so in the United States, we have roughly 330 million people. That's taxpayers, their husbands, their wives, their kids, not families. We have 330 million. Let's just say 333 because it's one third. There's 333 million. Let's just say it's that many. Okay, so for every $1 billion that's saved, every time you go to the debt clock and you see that it's added another $1 billion, that is $3 that Elon Musk and his DOGE team has effectively put back into the federal government's pocket per citizen. So at $72 billion, that's roughly $215, $217 per person. So that's $217 for you, $217 for your wife, $217 per kid. Per kid. So if you're a family of four, that's $800. Family of five, that's $1,000. $1,000 that the federal government has saved in money. So I think it's really good for us to put into perspective just how much money that is when the government just gave us $750 checks now, 6 years ago. So, and we're talking, DOGE hasn't even really been a thing for any more than 2 weeks now? Has it been 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So give them 6 months and let's see how much money they save.
Yeah, because, it really doesn't. For the day-to-day, it seems like, oh, wow, saving all this money. But when you look at the total, it's like, oh, wow, that while that is a lot of money, we're used to seeing a lot more money, 72 billion versus the 64 billion we've sent to Ukraine. So it's like, well, we've kind of just offset that cost right now. I think.
Well, a lot of that is corrupt money too.
Well, yeah.
What was that? What did they say? Roughly half of that was funneled into bureaucrats.
Well, yeah,
and Ukraine only got half of it.
And I think, we're going to be getting a lot into this, which is why I actually liked Pete Hegseth, because I don't think we need someone in there who's just another bureaucrat who's been going up the ranks for years. And when it comes down to it, Pete Hegseth is going to have a lot more people around him with expertise if we were to get into a situation that requires, actual generals and war expertise, which I don't think we'll get into that. But the fact that we haven't passed a audit, the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in like 8 years, that's concerning.
Yep.
The fact that there's been billions of dollars that have just gone missing.
Yep.
Like, how does that happen?
Yep.
And when they
How about
came
the
out,
fact that they've been funding the media to work against the people?
well, yeah, I mean, you have that.
What they've
You
been doing
have
with Politico, and
the fact that you have all of these government contractors who will upcharge the government just ridiculous amounts of money. It was a few weeks ago where I saw that I think it was like a soap dispenser or something on one of the planes or one of the B-52s or something. And they were charging the government 3,000% of what it's actually worth. And so you get into these situations where it's like, okay, we could really cut our defense spending, because I think right now it's around 700 billion a year.
Yeah, it's like 700 to 800. Yeah.
And when people say, and I hate that I'm quoting him here, but Chank from the Young Turks has said, "Hey, I kind of want to work with you on this because I don't think the government should be spending this much on defense." And it's like, I'm not saying that we should be less safe. I'm just saying that we're overspending on a lot of things. And if we actually went through and looked at this 700 billion, we could be getting the same amount and be just as efficient for a fraction of the cost, which will save American taxpayers more money. And I think that's the ultimate goal.
I think a lot of money could be saved just brainstorming here, and I'm sure they have a think tank on this too. But I think a lot of money can be saved on getting programs together when we need new planes or new ships or new tanks is a real big thing too. So we need specialized pieces of equipment and not a one size fits all thing. Use what you have. It means you're going to have a large variety of things to pick from, but would you rather have a bunch of twos or would you rather have a bunch of, a spade, king, queen in your hand? Use something that it's meant to be used for. So, Zack is in missile defense and I'm in shipbuilding. So I've noticed that a lot of ships, specifically Navy and Coast Guard ships that have come through, and I'm not trying to bash the Navy or the Coast Guard or anything like that, but you don't need just a ship. You need to define what it is going to be used for, and then build that ship. You have shipbuilders, just like you have missile makers. You've got all sorts of missile defense and missile defense contractors. You've got plenty of shipbuilders in the country, and some of them aren't even military shipbuilders. Plenty of the civilian style shipbuilders are more than capable of building you some tugboats. Okay, you should utilize those. All right, but build things that are specialized for the mission that you have ahead, and then build it. You don't need a tank that can also fly and ferry itself across water. It's absolutely just ridiculous on some of the things that we're building. So, now, on missile defense side, Zach, I'll let you talk on that one. But if you think you're going to have a whole bunch of, you need some bunker busters or, mother of all bombs is a real good one for that.
Well, as far as missile defense goes, I'm not really going to talk too much about that because a lot of it is classified, and I can't say that.
Well, so is the ship. So is the ship.
Well,
you can talk about general things.
I know, but I'll say this: we are very well protected. I don't think that we need Iron Dome. We have far too many things in place already that have kept us safe for decades. And then you go into the whole, why do we need this? So for those that don't know, Iron Dome is used for short-range ballistic missiles or for drones, which is why it works well in Israel, because Israel is surrounded by 22 Arab countries that hate them.
Israel and they're small.
Yes.
And they're small.
Yeah. And so Israel is the size of New Jersey, and Israel also has the GDP of, I'd say, probably like Indiana. So it's around like 400 billion or so. So I find it funny when people think the world is controlled by Jews. I'm like, okay, well, they have a very low GDP. I don't see how they're funding the entire world.
They're doing a terrible job at it.
Yeah, they're doing just a terrible job at it. But
about 200 billion is their economic. I just looked it up. 210 billion.
And so they're the size of New Jersey. They have a 200 billion GDP. And they have Iron Dome, which works well for them. But Iron Dome also costs a lot of money. Iron Dome requires, I think in Israel, they have 10 batteries that operate the entire Iron Dome defense system. Now, a battery, they have to be replaced every few years or so. And they cost about, I want to say, $100 million per battery. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
And so when you think about all of the defense systems the U.S. already has, and you can go out and Google them. I'm not going to name them here, but we have quite a few. And so if you were to implement Iron Dome in America on an American scale, you would have to have one, if not more than that, in each state. Then you would have to
Each
have,
subdivision.
well, I wouldn't say that. You'd have to have multiple throughout the state.
Yeah.
Then you would have to have the batteries to support them. Then you would also have to find a way to incorporate that with what we already have, because we're not going to just get rid of all the defense systems that we've tested for, the last 50, 60 years.
Yeah, we'll sell them.
We would have to incorporate them so that they work parallel with each other, all while funding what we already have. So you're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars and
I think
years.
the issue that a lot of people have is they want this Iron Dome because they see it working in Israel. They're like, we need that. And they say that because they don't know what we have. And while we can't discuss that,
Well,
what
I
we
mean,
have
but I mean,
works.
it's common
And
knowledge.
part of the big things,
We already
yeah.
know what the Patriot missiles do.
Yeah,
I mean, you can
we
Google.
have Patriot
You
missiles, we
can
have
Google
ships,
that.
we have all sorts of stuff. Like our borders are just different to defend. We have two giant oceans on either side of us, so short range stuff is integrated in a different way
Yeah,
because of that. And so, yeah,
absolutely. Now,
Iron Dome is a specific technology for a specific purpose. Missile defense is a whole other thing. And we have a we have the most robust missile defense systems in the world protecting the homeland. Like,
yep,
so I think people saying we need what they've got is because they don't know what we've got. And that's by design.
yeah.
And we don't want our enemies to know what we've got.
Hmm.
But it is robust and it is.
And
Yeah,
I don't
we're
think
secure.
I don't think Mexico or Canada are going to shoot ballistic missiles at us. For one, they can't, and two, we would demolish them. And
Yeah, it's gonna make that 51st state thing come real quick.
oh yeah,
We also
yeah.
have contingencies for that too. So like we're
Yeah.
not vulnerable to them in any capacity there. So yeah, so we've gone around quite a gambit here and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I'm trying
You
to.
guys have any other things?
Big discussion on one last topic. I'd like to hit those tariffs. And Mark, you seem to really have something to say. So I'm interested. My ears are open. So my personal opinion, and maybe you can just tell me to sit down and shut up. But my personal opinion is that Trump is using these tariffs as leverage so he can get his way. And it's like punching a guy in the nose and telling him, "Hey, give me your wallet, or I'm going to punch you again. Right now, give me your wallet, or I'm going to punch you again." Oh yeah, and then you punch him again, and then he gives you his wallet because he doesn't want to get punched a third time. That's my opinion.
So yeah, he's wanting to do that, but it's not working that way, and it's because tariffs don't work that way.
Well, it worked
Everyone
against
was
Mexico
cheering
and
out,
Canada.
except it didn't. So here's the thing with Canada, that huge thing. Hey, we're going to throw 100 billion into this. We're going to help you out with that. We're going to do all this. That was already legislation, already stuff they had in progress. They were already doing that before the tariffs, before Trump was even discussed. That was already in place. And they were like, "Here, we're going to do this thing." And Trump's like, "Yeah, I won," and announces to the world, we did this. Now we can back down. And, well, the thing was already there. Like the
I
thing
was
was
not aware of
already
that.
in place. Yep. And so we didn't get anything for it. And now he's back down the tariffs and they've upped theirs. So not only did we not get anything, and they've entered into this trade war. Now we're both on a pause because right now it's just rhetoric, and what was already in place is there. So we haven't got anything in Mexico. Okay, Mexico. Hey, we'll send 10,000 soldiers to your border. We just declared the cartels to be terrorists. Good move, great thing, must happen. Who do the cartels control?
Exactly.
We just sent 10,000 cartel members to our border. And so it's it doesn't work, and it never has in our history. The last time we tried to really do a national level tariff program was the Smoot-Hawley Act, and that was in 1928, and it led directly to the Depression. And it's because you enter into these trade wars, and it hits. So even that 10% tariff that we have on China, well, China's returned a tariff on us. And what do they hit? They hit these low level things. The problem with low level things is that's what makes up Walmart. That's what makes up what the average low income, middle income consumer goes out and buys daily is those things. And so our expenses are going up through the roof. We pay for those tariffs. The other countries do not. And so
So we pay for for China tariffing us, and then we also pay for the us tariffing China.
no, the China tariffing us is going to be paid by China when we purchase that stuff from them. But the fact that they are even doing that is because we dropped tariffs on them on 10%. The 10% tariff we have on them is also low level things. So they were hitting in kind, but we are still paying more. Like even though both parties are paying more, the fact is American citizens are paying more.
Mm-hmm.
Either way you cut it. So our daily cost of living is going up. Inflation is happening because of tariffs, and that has always been the case.
We're already seeing it with a lot of the vehicles too, and I mean, there's American-made cars that people drive, but not everyone drives American-made cars. I, for one, our family drives Toyota. We
Those are
celebrate.
made in Kentucky now, by the way. Those are
Well, not
Mhm.
there's certain parts that aren't, and it's still a Japanese company. And so I want to say, with everything that's been going on, there's been an increase in just like the Toyota Tacoma. It's gone up like 25% in the past 2 years. And that's just the whole economic situation going on. And so I think going forward, Trump needs to back off tariffs, because it's really confusing to me, because he wants to eliminate the income tax, which I kind of like, not going to lie. That's just because I did my taxes last night and I saw, how much I'm actually getting paid versus what I signed on for. And that's due to taxes. But
Mhm.
you have the income tax he wants to get rid of. He wants to get rid of tax on tips. He wants to get rid of all these different taxes. But then he also wants to tariff use tariffs on all these different countries. Well, he's already backed off for 30 days from Canada and Mexico,
Yeah.
because they've kind of bowed down and given him what he wants. And at the end of the day, what if all these other countries do that as well? How are we bringing in money as a country? Because right now, we I want to say it's over like 70% is just through income tax alone that we pay for, you know, to run this country. And on top of that, we're not really cutting spending. I mean, we're cutting,
No.
things with DOGE, but we're still going to turn around and spend that, if not more, when the next omnibus bill gets passed by Mike Johnson and the Republicans in the House. So it's like, great, we just saved $70 billion. Here, we're going to spend $80 billion now, and
Yeah.
we've only really spent like 10
What the
billion.
legislatures really need to do is anytime they're cutting one of these departments, like we're cutting the Department of Education, okay, that's one thing he wants to do. It can only be done through the legislature. He can't do it by fiat. And so they need to do that. but with each of these cuts, they need to return that funding to the states.
Mm-hmm.
And the states need to demand that from their representatives going to DC, because as the states, we need to wean ourselves off from dependency from the federal government, because they use that as a cudgel to force us into whatever they want. Alabama is one of the heaviest dependent states that there is in the whole country, for numerous reasons. And so if we cut these programs, we need to demand that, Tuberville and Britt and I've got Dale Strong here. These guys, you need to go to Washington and demand that we get our money back when you cut these things. Uh, Doing good work and cutting them, that has to be done, but that money needs to come back to the states.
I will
So
say
we can
this.
do the work here in the states to affect that. If we're going to make education better, that money needs to come back here so we can make education better, and so on.
I will say this as an Alabama voter. I have actually been proved wrong by Tommy Tuberville. I was not really optimistic about him, but he's done a pretty good job as a senator, and he stood his ground. And I was actually proven wrong by him, so I just kind of wanted to say that. Um, Same thing, Katie Britt. She's not the best, but she's doing a decent job. There are areas I think she can improve on.
I think she's learning.
She is learning, and so I will give her that. Um, a lot of the stuff I've seen her doing, I feel like has just been sound bites, and that's one thing that annoys me about politicians is when they try and do sound bites. I just don't want her to
Yeah,
get wrapped up in that and go down like a Nancy Mace or an MTG
yeah.
Laura Boebert type thing where sound bites is the only reason why anyone's ever talking about them, not because of legislation that they're passing. Um, but yeah,
Oh, I say one more big win. One more big win. And Trump deserves a hell of a lot of credit for this one.
Title IX,
DEI is dead.
that too.
DEI is dead. Like, he has mandated now through executive order that all federal documentation, regulation, everything limit its terminology to male, female, man, woman. Like, it's is done, and
And no
that
more
is such
pronouns.
a it's such a huge win. And now that we can have merit back in the federal government, that's going to really change a lot of things for us. There's speculation.
I want something though to be passed legislatively on that
Yes.
because
Yep. Thankfully, in Alabama, we did. Susan
well,
DeVore, she's in the House. I can't remember the one in the Senate right now. Both of them worked really hard, got it passed. It's on the floor today. It was on the floor just 2 days ago, and they are doing that here. But we need all the states to do that. Yep, it's going to be
I
meaningless.
will say that one, um, illegal immigration with the states helping out, and then the executive order that Trump passed the other day as far as no women in female sports. I think
Oh man,
if we
yeah.
can get legislation on those three things alone,
Yeah, those
Trump's
big
entire
wins.
term is just a win
Gold.
because
I hope Riley
those
got
things.
that pen too.
Well, yeah, because those are long term things that will go a long way. When the next
Yep.
Democrat comes into office, whether it be after this Trump term or whether JD Vance runs and wins and after him, they're going to try and do something. And if it's passed in the House and the Senate, it's going to it's going to be just a roadblock for them. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, as someone who works with government every day, it's kind of nice. I saw, I was checking my email the other day. And of course, you can always tell the people that are woke that work in the government because
Yeah.
they're typically the ones that send out an update email talking about the crap that no one cares about. How,
Yep.
with this executive order, we realize that some of you may need
suffering.
be suffering, need counseling, whatever, just know we're here for you. And it is still, it was something along the effect of, we still will treat people with respect. And I'm like, okay, if you're going by a she and you're a dude, I'm calling you a dude. Like, I don't care if I work with you or not. I'm not giving into your mental delusion. And if you want to fire me for it, I'll sue you, because, it is what it is. But yeah, it's been great getting those emails, because all I do is I read one line of it and I just hit delete, and I'm like, oh, this is great. But yeah.
Pronouns.
Yeah,
Right.
pronouns.
Yeah.
Delete them all. We're gonna make fun of you if you have pronouns in your bio.
I mean, I've done that always.
All right, so I think that concludes our first episode back.
It's been good to see you guys and hang out again.
Yeah, I will. I'll be making a trip.
We should do this more often.
Soon.
Yeah, in the coming weeks, I'm still learning the production side. I kind of just do all of this through, we record it and then I use CapCut, typically either on my phone or on my computer, to like just put an intro in and everything. I'm gonna start trying to do, what's it called, where you have the timestamps. I'm going to start trying to do timestamps on the videos. So if there's a certain topic you want to hear about, you can just kind of click to it. So they may come out. We're recording this now on a Saturday afternoon. It may be Sunday afternoon before I release the episode. Who knows? But yeah, I'm definitely trying to get better with producing more. I got a new computer over the break. It's not like state of the art. It's actually still probably like a 7 or 8 year old computer, but it's better than using just a old laptop, which I was before. Yeah, because I never really used a laptop other than when I was in college, so I haven't really needed one. And so now I'm getting to that point where I'm starting to use it more. I kind of want to get into this more. And as I was telling Frost before, I am right-wing dad, but I just came out with my real name, because for one,
of the closet.
Mark, did you read my face? I was gonna say it.
Yeah. I think, coming out with my real name, it wasn't more so the fear of getting doxxed, because I have all of my social media and everything locked down. So I'm not really concerned about that. But I just thought that it would give me more credibility to have, real picture, real name out there, putting my words behind my name, my opinions. And if we do take off, I feel like a news station or someone would rather interview someone going by their name than just a Twitter personality. But yeah, I there's a lot of big things coming. Getting back to what I said, I know I just went off on kind of a tangent. In the future, we are going to try and produce this a little bit better. I'm trying to get to the Aaron McIntyre AM update type production, if you know what I mean. If you don't, you should check out Real AM Update on Twitter, Apple Podcasts. He does a really great job. I literally listen to his podcast every single morning driving into work. And that's how I get my news to start out the day. And so that's all I've got. Do you guys have anything else before we go?
Nope, that's it. Just watch for that second of Walnut and coffee with Caldwell.
All right, guys. We will see you next week on the Bearded Federalist Show.